All right, as we get started today, got 4 classwork problems for you before we take a look at your homework with practicing factoring. Of course, the first thing we always do when we factor, or look for at least when we factor, class, common factor. And there's not always going to be a common factor, but always look for it first. We said that if we happen to have a trinomial that's a perfect square, positive, even middle term, then it might be class A perfect square trinomial. And if it is a PST class, it would factor into a binomial squared. We said if we have a perfect square minus a perfect square class, we call that a difference of squares, and a difference of squares factors into a sum and difference. I got 4 problems for you to factor there at your seats. Take just a moment to work on those. And then we'll take a look at your homework. Finishing up. Take just about 30 seconds longer to finish these. Pencils down. Even if you're not finished, go for pencils down. Let's take a look here. First thing we always check for when we factor, we said was common factor. And what's common here, Brandon? 3. Anything else? A. Anything else? No. Yes, Genesis? The negative. Anytime the first term is negative, unless we flip-flop things around, we could. I suppose we could bring the 12AB to the front. In that case, you don't need to factor out the negative. But if the first term is negative and you're not going to rearrange stuff, pull that negative out so that in the parentheses, the first term is always a positive. If we did pull out a negative 3A, Brandon, then change your answer slightly, what would we get?
5AB, negative 4B, and then positive 1.
There we go. How many got this answer for the first one? Anyone pull out just the 3A, maybe like Brandon did, and all of your signs were inverses of these? Anyone else do that? Questions? All right, looking at the next one, what do we need to do first on this problem, Kendall?
Find the common factor.
Find the common factor, which is 3. And when you factor out the 3, it leaves you with
x to the 4th negative 9. No.
3 goes into 4?
1.
With 1 left. 3 goes into 18.
6.
6 times. After the common factor, or at least after you've checked for it, the second thing you'll look for is this one of the special things that we talked about? Is this one of those things, for instance, on the list over here on the poster. Well, what is this thing, Kendall?
A difference of squares.
It's a difference of squares, and a difference of squares factors into a
Sum and difference.
By the way, be careful. I know yesterday we worked on the sum or difference of odd powers, binomial, polynomial. Word of caution, I've seen an awful lot of students try to do binomial, polynomial here. It's not what we're doing. That's odd powers. These are even powers. These are squares. Sum and difference. What's our sum and difference?
X squared plus 4, and then x squared minus 4.
But we're not done. This can factor further, Kendall, because... or did you stop here?
I stopped here.
Someone keep going. Did someone go one step further? Audrey. Yeah, here we have another difference of squares, which factors into another sum and difference. Audrey said x plus 2x minus 2. Can we do the same for the x squared plus 4, Audrey? No. What do we call this thing, anyone? Sum of squares. And a sum of squares doesn't factor, so we'll bring that down. We'll also bring the common factor down. We don't want to lose that either. So Audrey, you have this answer. Anyone else have this answer factored completely? Okay, a couple others. Good. Genesis, Maddie, Brandon. Those who stopped here with Kendall, do we see how it could keep going? And remember, I said watch for fourth powers. Those are the ones that can multi-level factor a lot of times, so watch out for that. Go to the next thing. The first thing I should always check for when I factor, class. Common factor. Noah, what's common? Nothing. But we should check first, right? Always check and see, but there is nothing common. Okay, so if nothing's common, you go to your next step up. Is this one of those special things we've talked about so far? Yes, it's a perfect square trinomial. Perfect square, positive, even. So in that case, it factors into a class. Binomial squared. You got to keep those straight. Perfect square trinomial is going to factor into a binomial squared. What's the binomial here? And just to check, let's multiply and double. What's 7 times 4, class? 28. If you double it, does it give you a 56? Yeah. Yes. And again, the reason you check is because if this had been a 50, you still would have said it looks like a PST, right? Perfect square, positive, even. But it doesn't work out, so that tells you, okay, it's not a perfect square trinomial. There is no binomial squared. So always good to check the multiply and double just to make sure it's not one of those almost PSTs. But good, how many got this answer for the third one? Questions on the third one? And looking at the last one, kind of a weird, we got a binomial squared minus another binomial squared. So we've got a square minus a square. We call this, Michael, a?
Well,
what's a good algebra word that means subtract or minus? Difference. And I've got a square on either side, so we might call this a?
Difference.
Difference of squares, just logically thinking about it. Difference of squares factors into a?
Sum and difference. Sum
and difference. That's the sum and difference Noah was thinking of a moment ago. And give myself a little bit more room here. And how do I write out my sum and difference?
The quantity of 2a minus b plus the quantity of 3c plus b. The quantity of 2a minus b minus the quantity of 3c plus b.
All right, then of course we'll remove all of these parentheses, and for most of them that's really easy. One of them we got to do a little something. What do we get when we remove the inner parentheses?
2a minus b plus 3c plus b. 2a minus b plus 3c.
Well, it already was a plus.
Minus 3c plus b.
And you said minus b. All right, and we're not done, because what could we still do to simplify?
You can add the signs. Combine like terms.
Combine like terms. So I've got a negative b and a positive b. Thoughts?
Those go out.
Those cancel, right? Those are inverses, so we're just left with 2a positive 3c. And then in this set of parentheses,
the b's combined.
B's combined to get
2a negative 2b negative 3c.
And there's our answer. Those who made it this far, how many got this answer on the last one? Okay, a few of you did. Good. Questions on this? Any questions at all on this factoring review before we take a look at the homework? All right, pull your books out then. Open them up to page 28. Page 28 in your textbooks. And homework out as well. You did a bunch of teal problems. It was 13 to 40, the teal, and you also did 43 to 53, the odd. So 13 to 40, just the teal, and then the 43 to 53, the odd. You attempted the extra credit there. doozy, wasn't it? Go. And all right, let's run through the answers here very quickly. Number 13. What did you get when you factored, Abby?
X plus 3 squared.
X plus 3 quantity squared. Number 14, what did you get, Maddie?
X plus 5 squared.
X plus 5 quantity squared. Dropping down to number 19, what did we have to do first before we could do other factoring, Kendall?
Factor out the negative.
And along with the negative, let's factor out the 4. So if we factor out the 4, it doesn't sound like you did, so looking in your book now, Kendall, if we pull the negative 4 out of number 19, what does it leave us with?
X squared, negative.
Well, but you're putting in a negative 4, so.
Positive. 6x, positive 7, no.
Ooh, 36 divided by 4 equals. Brain freeze. Class? 9 equals 9. All right. And so now we can see, Kendall, PST easily factors into
Binomials squared. So x positive 3.
There we go. And of course, we don't want to lose the
Negative 4.
negative 4. Now, how many of you, like Kendall, you just pulled out the negative and you said, well, square root of the first, square root of the last, and the sign of the middle, and so negative 2x plus 6 quantity squared. It's not wrong, it's just not finished. Because you notice there's still a common factor of 2 squared. That's where the 4 comes from. So if you pulled out the 2, you'd have to square it as you pull it out because the whole binomial is being squared. That's where you get the 4, and of course you'd be left with the x plus 3. So this is the complete answer. This is a you almost got it answer, just needed to finish it out. But at least you got the negative. Questions on this one? Questions on this one? Number 21, what did you get for your answer here, Michael?
I got 5x plus 3 squared.
5x plus 3, quantity squared. Number 22, Noah.
4x negative 11 quantity squared.
Good, 4x negative 11, quantity squared. Number 27 is a fun one. Audrey?
2x plus y plus 1 squared.
Good, 2x plus y plus 1 all squared. But since you don't need those parentheses, you could just make it a trinomial squared. 2x plus y plus 1 quantity squared. Number 28, yeah. Genesis. Skips 28. Oh, Brandon.
I got quantity negative x plus 3 squared. That's the quantity, and plus 2y, quantity negative x plus 3, and then plus y squared.
Well, that's the original problem. What did you get when you factored it?
Oh. Quantity negative x plus 3 plus y, quantity squared.
There we go. The quantity, negative x plus 3, plus a y, all squared. Let me show this, though, because there is something I want to point out. We would rather not leave parentheses within parentheses, so we'd like to take those parentheses off. When I do, though, notice it's going to leave me with a first term negative, and I told you we don't like first term negatives. Now, here's 2 options. Option 1, flip-flop. Put the x in the middle or at the end or something, right? Maybe 3 negative x positive y, quantity squared. That could work, right? The other option would be to factor out the negative, but it's a negative squared. So when you pull out the negative, it gets squared as you pull it out, which makes it a positive, but it still changes the signs to an x negative 3 negative y squared. And that are actually equivalent values to each other. So this is probably the easy answer. It just has that first term negative. Quick flip-flop takes care of that. Or factor out the negative, but realize because whatever you pull out gets squared, like the 2, it becomes a positive at the beginning. Questions on, anyone have one of those few answers for this? All right, several of you, good questions on that. All right, let's come back to Genesis 4:31. What did you get for your answer? Excellent job. Quantity 5x plus 4 times quantity 5x negative 4. Number 32. Back to Maddie.
3x plus 11 times 3x.
Good. Quantity 3x positive 11 times quantity 3x negative 11. Number 33. Abby.
Quantity of 6x plus 5 times the quantity of 6x minus 5.
Great job. It's 6x plus 5, that quantity times quantity 6x negative 5. Number 37. Kendall.
Quantity 7u squared plus 15 times the quantity 7u squared minus 15.
One tiny little edit to that answer, Michael.
Z, 15Z.
Yeah, put a Z at the end of your 15s. You split up the 225 into 15 and 15, but forgot about the Z squared to be Z and Z. So just a little thing there, easy to forget. Back to Kendall for redemption, number 40.
The quantity y plus 2 plus 6 times the quantity y plus 2 minus 6.
Good, let's simplify though. Let's remove those parentheses because there's some like terms that we can combine in there. What would we get if we combined like terms after removing parentheses?
Y plus 8 times the quantity y plus 8 minus 8.
We got positive 2 and then a negative 6. So y
-4.
negative 4. Y positive 8 times y negative 4, our final answer. So initially, y plus 2 plus 6, y plus 2 minus 6. And then we combine the positive 2's with the positive and negative 6's respectively. Again, y plus 8 times y minus 4. Was anyone perfect on all of those? Anyone perfect on all of those? Or all the ones you did since you skipped one? Failure. Just kidding. All right. How many of you just missed one of the ones you did on that section? One of them. All right. Anyone missed 2? 17? There weren't even that many. Okay, questions. Poor Noah. All right, questions on this. Question. All right, let's drop down to the 43 to 53 odd, and working on that sum or difference of the same odd powers. Yep, I went off camera. Oh well. Drag the camera back over here in just a minute. Gavin and Brecken, what happened? We're over here. All right. Need one of those cool cameras like that I wear. My dad works at PCC and they record classes there at Pensacola Christian College. He's in charge of all the video production, everything like that. The instructor wears some sort of device and the camera moves and follows the instructor wherever he goes. I'm like, that would be cool. Except when I want to sit down and like drink water or something and then the camera goes over there and you lose the chalkboard. So I don't know. Anyway, some are difference of the same odd powers. In general, same odd powers, right? We said cubes are special odd powers. But we said in general, class, you get when you factor a binomial times a polynomial. Now, if it's cubes, you specifically get a binomial times a trinomial, okay? And with the binomial, we said it's going to keep whatever sign is already present. So if we've got an x cubed negative 125, wait, cubes? Yeah, that's a cube. We just don't see the cube. So my suggestion was, let's rewrite this, Noah, as x cubed minus, so that we can clearly see the cubed value. That also helps when making our binomial, because we literally just write it down without the cubes. And then this is going to be a trinomial, 3 terms. I'm going to start with the first value in the binomial, which is, of course, x, but I'm going to start 1 power less, so then, and then. Then I'm going to take this value, start it out, then, first power, then 25, which is the squared value. What about the signs? Anytime it's a negative here, they're going to be all positives. If this were a positive here, class, they would alternate. For the next one, we have a w to the 5th plus 1. Once again, Audrey, I said I want to be able to see the powers. Let's rewrite 1 as something to a power. Yeah, 1 to the 5th, pretty straightforward. So again, here, class, we're going to factor this into a binomial times a polynomial. How many terms in the polynomial, Audrey? 5 this time. So I'm going to give myself a little bit more space. And I'm going to start with the binomial. Oh, it's a w. Plus 1. I think Brandon did that earlier. W plus 1. And then we're going to write it out, starting with the first term in the binomial, which is a w. We're going to start it as w to the 4th. 1 power less than. And then the 1 starts out as then, well, 1 to the 1st, which is 1. 1 squared, which is 1. 1 cubed, which is, and then to the 4th, which is 1. There we go. Okay, and again, would it be wrong to write the 1s along here? No, but whatever. There's a 1 at the end. And then as far as the signs, so the first term is technically always going to be then, and there's our answer. How many had this on number 45? I think I forgot to ask, how many had this on 43? All right, any questions? You copied the cubes down with it and the 5ths down with it into the binomial, is that what you said? Oh, you wrote the polynomial. You didn't factor it into binomial times polynomial. It's like the binomial is mental, and you wrote this part out. Gotcha. Yeah, both parts, right? Just like, for instance, with the common factor, we write the common factor first, then write what's left, but we can't just skip actually writing the common factor. This is kind of the same way. All right, let's go to x to the 5th plus y to the 5th. Tell you what, Maddie, let's come to you. What should we have put for our answer? And there we go. How many had that answer? For number 47. All right, number 49, Genesis, we've got an 8x cubed minus 27y cubed. And obviously, I can see the x with the cube and the y with the cube, but I want to see the numbers with cubes also. How might I rewrite this initially? Good. 2 cubed x cubed minus... There we go. And now we can see the binomial, very straightforward, is going to be L 2x. There we go. And then in the trinomial, and here, class, I might take time to show a little bit more work than I would have done before. I'm going to start with the entire first term. The whole 2x is going to start out squared, then gone. The 3y is going to start out then, and my signs all positive. Maybe showing that step with the squared first, gone first, squared, maybe that would help us because we've got multiple numbers going on, okay? So sometimes we've got to show a little bit more work just to make sure we're going to stay accurate. Let's simplify now. What's our final answer? 2x minus 3y times the quantity.
4x plus 6x plus 9x.
There we go. And again, it looks like a PST, doesn't it? Perfect square, positive, even. But I told you, class, never a PST. So it does not factor into binomial squared. We are done. How many got that answer on number 49? Got that answer for 49. Okay, only a few of you. Do you see how maybe showing the extra steps here maybe help us to be a little bit more accurate in the answer? Again, I'm lazy. I don't like to show work if I don't have to, but sometimes multiple numbers going on at the same time, sometimes have to show that work. And once again, I cut the camera off. All right, I'm eventually going to figure it out. I don't know what the struggle is today, Gavin and Breck, and I apologize. And anyone else who happens to be watching on YouTube. All right. So just a couple more from the homework, and then I'll give you a chance to practice some of these on your own. 51. Oh, wow, this is a fun one. 128, m to the 7th minus b to the 7th. Once again, we have a little problem, Brandon. I see a number. I said when we see numbers, we want to rewrite it as something to a power. But what power does this have to be? It's got to be something to the 7th power. Well, I know it's not 1 to the 7th, right? Because that would be 1. So maybe, is it 2 to the 7th? Yeah. And if you weren't sure, you multiply it out and figure it out. And if it's not 2 to the 7th, then you go with 3 to the 7th. And then if that doesn't work, you try 4. And if that doesn't work, you go back to 2 to the 7th and figure you did something wrong. Okay, so 2 to the 7th, practically speaking, m to the 7th minus b to the 7th. I'm going to factor this into what class? A binomial times a polynomial. How many terms in the polynomial, Brandon? 7. All right, so what's my binomial?
2m minus b.
All right, here we go. We're going to start. Let's not simplify the exponents just yet. Just try to make it easier on ourselves. What do we write here?
Quantity 2m and then to the 6th.
There we go. 2m to the 6th. Then
2m b to the 2m to the b.
Okay, and you're going to try to do both at the same time, I see. Okay, then
2m to the 4th b squared.
All right, so you notice he's descending and ascending at the same time. This is a brave soul. All right, keep going.
2m cubed, b cubed, and 2 2m squared v to the 4th.
I did not give myself enough room.
2m and then v.
2m, I'm sorry, that's 2m squared. Okay, so 2m.
And then v to the 5th, and then v 6th.
Okay, and my signs.
All positive.
Oh, that's happy. Okay, so. Alright, now we get to simplify. 2m minus v times, and our final answer shouldn't take up quite as much room.
Oh, I didn't simplify, so.
Oh, okay, let's simplify now. 2 to the 6th. 2 times 2.
4
Times 2.
8
Times 2.
60
Times 2.
32
Times 2.
64.
So 64 m to the 6th, okay? Then divide that by 2 to get the previous value.
32.
M to the 5th v, keep going.
18.
Ooh.
Oh.
Divide that by 2. 16. Plus
Yeah.
16
Oh, m, and then
to the 4th,
and then v squared.
okay?
And then 8m to the cubed v cubed. And then 4m squared v to the 4th.
I said it wouldn't take up as much space. I was wrong.
2m v to the 5th and v 6th.
Did anyone get this complete answer? Wow, good. A few of you did. Excellent. 4 of you did. Good. Those who didn't, you see what you should have did? It's a doozy. All right. Like I said, be nice to the math teacher, and maybe you won't have one like this on a quiz or test. All right. Then number 53. This is a sum of squares, isn't it? V to the 6th plus y to the 6th. But it's also, class, a sum of cubes. It's not only a sum of squares, it's a sum of cubes. I can't factor it like a sum of squares because a sum of squares is prime. It doesn't factor. But if I rewrite these as cubes, I can now factor them. Abby, how should I rewrite them first of all?
X squared to the cube plus y squared cube.
Good, so now I can treat it like a sum of cubes, which factors into, Maddie, well, specifically a trinomial in this case. What's the binomial going to be, Kendall?
X squared plus y squared.
And then right here, what's my first thing going to be here? Noah? Well, I'm going to start one power less. So I'm going to start with x squared squared. You could simplify directly to x to the 4th. I'm going to leave it this way for now. X squared squared, then and then gone, right? The y squared starts out gone. Notice I didn't say the y. The whole term, the whole y squared starts out gone, then y squared technically to the 1st, and then y squared squared, or y to the 4th. And of course we could simplify there, so we've got our x squared plus y squared. We will simplify here, class, to get x to the 4th, x squared y squared, and then y to the 4th. What about my signs? Genesis? So we start with a, then, and there's our answer. How many got this on number 53? All right, questions on 53 now that we've done it. Seen it worked out. Any questions? All right, set that aside. Just have your spiral notebooks out. We're going to give you 5 classwork problems. Now we had a chance to try the homework on our own. You didn't get a lot of chance to work on your own in class yesterday. So you had a chance to work some of these on our own. Got a chance to succeed in some cases, fail in other cases. That's okay. Let's see if we can now all succeed on these 5 problems. Factor these polynomials. All right, for sake of time, pencils down, check your answers. For sake of time, pencils down, check your answers. First one I think is really straightforward, binomial, polynomial, or trinomial in this case. Really shouldn't have been any difficulty there as long as you remember signs alternate. On the next one, got to get the common factor out first. Turns into a nice easy difference of squares. So really no issue there. On the next one, get that common factor of 3 out. You got your PST factor, no binomial squares, shouldn't have been too bad. When I started number 4, I started by rewriting this as 2 cubed m cubed minus 4 cubed. And so I had my 2m minus 4. As soon as I wrote that, I was like, wait, there's a common 2 in there. There's a common 8 in here. Erase, start over, common factor first. And I preach it to you guys, and guess who forgot? Gotta factor out the common factor first. Get the 8 out. All of a sudden now it's a much more manageable m cubed minus 8 or m cubed minus 2 cubed. And this becomes much, much easier. M minus 2 times m squared plus 2m plus 4, of course, with the 8 at the beginning. If you didn't do that, you might have gotten this answer. The 2m minus 4 I was fixing to get times 4m squared plus 8m plus 16, I believe, might have been the answer you got. But you could factor out a common 2. You could factor out a common 4, which is your common 8 that you would have gotten here. Again, you could still get this answer from here, but man, it's so much easier to just directly get the common factor out first. Then on the last one, difference of squares, sum and difference, and then another difference of squares, so another sum and difference, then keep the sum of squares. How many perfect on all the ones you did? Perfect on all the ones you did. All right, questions on the ones we missed or questions on ones we maybe didn't get to? Any questions on any of these at all? Where we feel like, as far as those first few factoring methods, we've gotten through 1 through 4, we feel like, yeah, I think I've got this. I see blank faces. It's hard to read. How many say, yes, I've got it, and we're good? How many say, I have no clue what's happening? Besides Michael. All right, so he didn't really raise his hand. All right, questions. All right, clear your desk except for a clean sheet of paper and a pencil. Clear your desk except for a clean sheet of paper and a pencil. First and last name at the top of your paper, along with today's date, which is 8/27/21. First and last name, 8/27/21, today's date. And this is quiz 4. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to end the video here after we get started on the quiz. I'll have the homework written on the chalkboard, so pause the video long enough to get the homework down. Of course, you can take the quiz then. All right, let's go and take a look at the quiz together very quickly. Numbers 1 through 4, just answer the questions. Answers may require more than one word to complete the statement. And then for numbers 5 through 12, you're factoring. Okay? If you get stuck on one, move on. There are too many problems for you to go getting stuck. Don't sit there and waste time. If you can't think of it right off what to do, move on and come back to it if there's time at the end. There's a bonus for you as well. Right? Go and get started.